Hi, I'm Georgia, the dyer behind Little Gremlin Dye Works, and I dye yarn out of my studio in Missoula, Montana. This is the first podcast of 2020, and I hope to upload videos on Wednesdays. I'm going to follow the general format of knitting podcasts, so I will start with a little chit chat, and then we will go into WIPs, then finished objects, and finish off with dream knitting and dyeing. So, let's get right into it. First off, I'm drinking some ginger peach from Republic of Tea, which is my favorite tea that comes in a tea bag. I really like loose leaf teas, but with my teapot, it's a little bit hard to drink them in my studio where I don't have a lot of little tables. So Ginger Peach by Republic of Tea is my favorite right now. And so I live in Missoula with my wife and 4 cats, and they'll probably join us on the podcast at some point. And I got into knitting about a year and a half ago. I am a chemist by trade, but after I moved up from South Carolina to Montana, where my family's from, there aren't as many chemistry opportunities. And so I had taken a dyeing class at SAF in North Carolina, October of, I think, 2018. And I liked it so much that I decided to, buy some Dharma Company acid dyes. And I had gotten some bare wool from dyers at SAF. And then it pretty much sat in my craft closet forever. So when I moved up to Montana, I, got a little hot plate and a little scale. And I started dyeing. And, it's modest. It's modest still. But some of the things that I wanted to make the Steven West Starflanket. That's my first WIP, and that's pretty much the WIP that I'm going to talk about today. And I had this gorgeous skein from Daydream Dye Works in the colorway November. And it's a 100% superwash merino 4-ply DK, and it is buttery soft, and the colors are just gorgeous. Like just these amethysty purples and these mustardy yellows and these like deep greens and blues. And I'm like, I need to just clothe myself in this, right? And so I had all of this yarn that I'd bought, this bare yarn. And so I said, I have 2 skeins of this beautiful yarn and all of these bare yarns. So I decided to dye coordinating yarns to go with the beautiful hand-dyed yarn from Daydream Dye Works. And so I came up with this mustardy color and this green. Don't worry, it's not as acid green, or maybe it is. And the purple, which is right here. And this one is as just like disco wild, but it knits up a little bit more tame because of these dark bits. And so I basically threw every purple dye that I bought from Dharma at this skein, and it's a little crazy, but I like it a lot. And so I started knitting the Starflanket, which Steven West is just my absolute hero, because I'm not like one to be, really into gauge or like, just make it work and have fun, right? And so it starts out with these parallelograms, and you alternate 2 of your colors. So I chose the November colorway from Daydream Dye Works and my own mustard colorway. And then it goes into these beautiful stripes. Oh, and I have it backwards. And so it goes into these beautiful stripes. And so this is garter stitch done in a parallelogram, and you join as you go. with 8 parallelograms. And then there are these stitches, these stripes. Now, Steven West calls for alternating of pearl rows and stockinette rows, but that's kind of against my religion. So I decided to go, since I was in the round, I was like, you know what, we're just going to do stockinette until we get to the next section, which is brioche. And so I'm doing a 4-color, well, a 3-color, but 4 stripe sequence. So I have that purple, which ends up being a lot tamer when it's knit. And then that light creamy yellow. And then the green, which the green is doing some really cool stuff. And then back to the yellow. And then the next stripe will be purple and it'll repeat the pattern. And there are 11 stripes. And then it goes to some brioche. As you can see in, you might be able to see in the picture there, where it's the parallelograms and then the stripes and then the brioche. And then I think there's some straight stockinette, and then like this really cool border. And so I'm not done, but it's really addictive and potato chippy, and I like it a lot. Also, I have these adorable yarn over knitting ones, because this is my first time with any kind of quote unquote lace. And so I wanted to get some fun descriptive markers to kind of tell me, okay, now you got a yarn over, or, oh, this is just a, slip knit and a knit together, like a paired decrease. So that's my big whip. I'm also working on the red cedar slippers, but they're kind of in a weird place with the flexi flip, so I'll show them next time. Hopefully I'm halfway through one of the slippers, so hopefully I will have one slipper completely done. I'll talk about those more next time and I'll show them. And then for finished objects, since this is the first podcast, I've brought things that I've made previous to now, but not necessarily within the last couple weeks. So, right after my wife came out as trans, I made her this hat. Can you see it? So I had gotten this hand-dyed acrylic off of Etsy, and the dyer, I'll put in the show notes, but the dyer, I think it was called Coral Reef, was the colorway. And to me, it just looked like, cotton candy or old-timey Christmas candies, but it's also pink and kind of, like a very, very pale pink, almost white, and a blue, which are kind of sort of the trans flag colors. And so I knit the Stonybreck pattern with that. And the blue is actually Mighty Stitch, because so it's acrylic for the color, the main colory bits, and then the background colory bits are Mighty Stitch in, I think, Planetarium. I'll put the colorways in the show notes. And that's from Knit Picks. And it is 20% superwash, 80% acrylic. I had gotten like a ton of this, and I was going to do this like beautiful blue pieced Afghan that was going to be like king size. And then I made like 3 blocks, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this. Not like skill wise, but just like too much and not enough payoff really. And so now I have all of this Mighty Stitch, and it's great worsted weight yarn. It's ultra soft. So something like the brim of a hat is perfect, that if it's going to be on that sensitive skin. But now I just have a stash of 15 different skeins of blues and greens and Mighty Stitch. So, oops. Then, also for my wife, she used to smoke pipes on our covered porch in South Carolina. And so, as fall approached, it wasn't super cold, but she had been living in South Carolina for a while, so she was feeling the chill. And so she asked for a long hat, kind of a stocking hat for her smoking outfit. And I'll have to look on Ravelry for the pattern, but I know it's I think Knitpick Stroll tweed. And it's just, here, I'll put it on for you. You know, it's given real good, like, Ebenezer Scrooge vibes with this, like, pom-pom. It looks really cute on her. Don't get me wrong. I'll try and insert a picture. And so, so this is something. This was in, like, a fingering weight wool, knit at a pretty fine gauge, and it took a million years, it felt like, to stitch that up. And then kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, when I was at SAF, I met the shepherdess behind the Spotted Circus. She raises alpaca and dyes wool and alpaca fiber. And then afterwards, I was on her Etsy, and she had this gorgeous, just like speckled, it looks like confetti cake to me. And the story behind it is really cool. So she, one of her alpacas was naughty and had escaped shearing at like the shearing time. So then time passed, and this really shaggy alpaca like comes in, is like, hello. And so they sheared it. And the mill was able to spin the alpaca fiber in the Lopi style. And for those that you aren't aware, the Lopi style is the traditional style of spinning wool from Iceland, because the Icelandic sheep are super shaggy, and so their staple lengths are pretty long. I don't actually know how long. I do this like I'm like, oh yes, this many inches. But and so anyways, that's what they do. To the best of my knowledge, please comment below if you are like a Lopi expert. But they have this like beautiful single ply with this long staple length. And then they have this like string thread thing. You can kind of see it. Let me see. Here, maybe on like the dark bits where you can kind of see that thread. And so you have this beautiful airy single ply, and then spiraling around it, you have this thread. And so it provides structure. So it's not just like knitting roving, but you get a lot of that airy loftiness. So it's ultra warm. And then you add alpaca on top of that. So it's soft and just like the best. So anyways, I made myself these really fun mitts, fingerless mitts for driving. And of course, they're like slightly different lengths and whatever. And because it's hand dyed and the nature of things, they're definitely cousins, not sisters or twins, but I love them to death. And then my wife, who has a little bit more of a conservative style, was like, oh my gosh, I love those, but neon rainbow speckles is a little much. And so I went on the Etsy and I found a black alpaca spun in the Lopi style, and I made some for her, but I found a pattern where it has little like a convertible mitten. So you knit like you're gonna knit a fingerless mitt, and then you essentially just put your needle in here like you were gonna, and you do, I guess, an afterthought mitten, but you don't cut anything. You just thread your needle here right under the ribbing, and then you knit a little mitten, and then you bind off, and so then you have mittens. I'll try and find those and show those next time. So yeah, so those are my finished objects. And now let's talk about dream knitting and dyeing, because of course, right? So, my wife and I took a trip up to, like a little 2-day trip up to the Flathead Lake area, up to Whitefish. And if you're familiar with Montana, it's like, if you're not familiar with Montana, it's a little like kind of ski and summer town that has a sizable population of people that just also live there all year round. So anyways, we went up there, and of course, we're traveling. So I, beep, beep, boop on the phone, and I say, okay, where are the yarn shops? And Dr. Google told me about 2. So we went to Old Sun Knits, and I'll put a link in the show notes. I don't remember the proprietor's name, but she has an adorable dog. Seriously, check her out on Instagram just to see this dog. This dog is some kind of blonde, probably like a Labrador or something. And so we walk in, and I had went there because Farmer's Daughter's Fiber has on her website says, okay, I stock my yarn here. And Old Sun Knits was one of the places that sells her yarn. So I was like, oh, I gotta check out her Surrey alpaca. So we went there, and this beautiful, beautiful dog comes and greets us. And my wife just sits down on the floor and starts petting this dog. And this dog is loving it, right? And so then I can like walk around the yarn shop and just check stuff out. So anyways, I went and I got this color. It's like this pale gray with these like sage greens and like a slightly darker gray. The colorway is called Ghost Dance. And I got 3 skeins of it because I'm going to knit 2 garments. So I'm going to knit an as if tee for myself with this as the tit window, and twill from Knit Picks, which is 100% superwash merino. It feels like butter, like it's amazing. And so we're going to have this as the sweater, and then this is like the little peekaboo tit window that's done with intarsia. And then for my wife, she totally surprised me with this color. I'm going to do the Sheer V by Jessie Maed Designs. I've test knit for Jessie Maed a couple times, and I'll see if I can find my Ripple, my Ripple butt shorts. They, again, Mighty Stitch, I think macaw. They're super cute, super comfy. Totally recommend the pattern. But anyways, I digress often. And so I'm going to use Capra, which is a DK weight for, the Sheer V, but I'm not going to have the like long bell sleeves. I'm going to do like more of a bishop sleeve just by doing rapid decreases and then really going down with the needle size for the cuffs for my wife. Cause I think if she had big billowy sleeves, it might, she might dip it in her coffee or something. So anyways, and she chose this lovely color called Tansy Heather. And she's normally like a grays and navies kind of gal. So I was very, very surprised when she chose this beautiful mustard. But I think it'll go really nicely as well. So those, that's why we went to Old Sun Knits, is to, squish the Odang, which is a 74% Surrey alpaca and a 26% silk. And you get like a whopping 328 yards per 50 grams. So I got 3 50-gram skeins. I'm totally guesstimating that it'll be enough, but I think we'll be fine for the 2 tit windows. I'm not going to hold it double with either the twill or the Capra. So I think I'll probably have some mohair left over for another fun project. And so that's something that we're doing. And then, the other yarn store that we visited in Whitefish was Polka Dot Sheep. And the reason I wanted to go there was because I think on her Instagram or maybe her Facebook video, she had a little video of her dyeing a colorway called Nebula, which is, of course, what I bought because I'm a basic bitch and I love space. And so it's this beautiful navy color with pops of orange and purple and like a royal blue. And so I got it in DK. Did I get it in DK? Great question. I think maybe. I either got it in a DK or a fingering. It's her Tenderfoot 80/20, 80% merino, 20% nylon. But it doesn't say DK or fingering, so I'll have to get out my wrap springe tool and figure it out. But anyways, so I got these, and they're gorgeous, and I'm thinking I might put them into an Enchanted Mesa by Steven West. I'll link the pattern below on Ravelry, because that brings me into my dream dyeing. So I'm brand new to dyeing yarn, right? And so I had dyed for the Starflanket, and then I've dyed a couple of one-off skeins. This one is for my best friend's friend Bob, and this one is for my best friend's husband Keith, and I'm probably gonna knit them hats. I'm thinking the peanut butter and jelly hat. Again, everything's going to be in the show notes. And then this one, the name escapes me, but it's kind of like a pixie hat with these ear flaps that you can like button up. It's super structural and a little bit silly, but my friend's husband is just, he runs so hot that I think an architectural silly hat is going to be more useful to him than a beanie, that's actually meant to, keep you warm. So anyways, I've digressed again. So I went on the internet and I said, can I get bare yarn in an advent? Because I had done an advent through someone out of a yarn shop out of Georgia a couple years ago, and it was gorgeous and wonderful, but I was like, these colors are all right, but maybe I done my own, and so I found a set of 25 pre-done up bare mini skeins, and so I'm going to dye my own advent with blackjack and hookers. And for my childhood, I have this little like darling wooden like mini cupboard that has 25 little doors, and there's like a snowman and a Santa, and it's adorable. And I got a stitch marker advent calendar. Again, links in the show notes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my wife randomly choose the order of the advent yarns, and then throw in the little stitch markers each day, and then probably a few treats for me, like some teas and some chocolates, and so I'll have my own advent. And so I'm working on that, and I'm thinking about doing some really like traditionally, like really some real winter Christmas vibes. And so things like navy that fades into, powder blue, and, thinking about like those dip dyed fades, and maybe some things with speckles, and, just really kind of run the gamut. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to have all of these mini skeins and all of this yardage, pardon me. So what do I do with it? And so I was, of course, looking online, and Kristy Glass, I'll link the video down below, it did this great little, so you have all these mini skeins, what do you do with Advent? And I was looking at that, and she had reminded me about Steven West. And so I went online and I found his Enchanted Mesa sweater / dress. And so I was looking at it and I was like, man, that would be really cool if you had a main color where you had more yarn, and then you had, these stripes, such as for mini skeins. And so I was looking, and I was thinking about this, which is, this gorgeous like dark blue with like variegated pops, and then having, a winter advent calendar, which is going to be, reds and greens and blues and creams, and how that could kind of really jive well. And the yardage is just about perfect for it. So, hence, that's what I'm doing. And so I think that's everything. you can see a little Nibbler in the background. Nibbler, say hi to the podcast. She's like, whatever, fool. I'm going to sniff your background knitted blanket throw. Which I made. This was my very first project. And I made it out of Lion Brand Woolies Quick and Thick in some colors. Hey, Bubby. Bubby, maybe don't. And and I made it as a lap blanket for my wife, but I didn't realize how long or short or the dimensions or anything. I was just so proud of learning how to purl. So this was my first non-garter thing that I made. I did a little checkerboard. I'm not sure if you can see it. And then just straight stockinette panels, but I didn't really stockinette curls. So the ends are curled and it's just, it's lots of good memories. Bubby, don't put your claws in there. Don't do that. I have to get more scratching poster around the house. But yeah, and so that was the first episode. I'm not going to tell you to subscribe and press the bell and da-da-da-da-da. But if you like this, I'm going to try and do this once a week. Come back, see it again. Next week, there'll probably be more cats, more tea. I'm probably going to be further along on my blanket. I'll show you some slippers. And what else? Maybe I'll cast something else on. And so, yeah. So I will see you next week. Be well until then. And knit something fantastic. Bye. Oh, I don't know how to turn this off. Maybe I'll leave this in.